Welcome back to GLASP Deep Dive, short takes on the long reads worth your attention. I'm Hope.
And I'm Adam. Today, every team is shipping AI features, and almost none of them can actually tell you if those features are any good. We're going to fix that.
And the dirty secret is the QA process most teams are running. It's ask the prompt engineer to read 30 outputs and trust their gut. Hamel Hussein has a name for it. A vibes eval. You click through 50 prompts, you say, feels better, you ship.
And it works. Right up until it doesn't. Hamel and Shreya Shankar run this cohort, AI Evals for engineers and PMs. It's trained over 2,000 people, including engineers and PMs from OpenAI and Anthropic.
Which tells you something. The people closest to this realized their own measurement was just vibes. And Hamel's gone as far as calling evals the #1 most important new skill for product managers. More important than prompt craft, more important than picking the right model.
That's a big claim, but it holds up because it's structural. If you can't measure quality, you can't improve it. Everything else is downstream of that one thing.
So let's set the stakes. The first time you ship an AI feature, it looks good is a perfectly fine bar. You wrote a prompt, tried 10 inputs, the outputs look reasonable, you deploy. Why does that break?
The second time, the ground's already moved under you. Start with non-determinism. The same prompt, same model, gives you different answers run to run. Temperature 0 shrinks that, but it doesn't kill it.
And then the one that really gets people. Model drift. The provider updates the model and keeps the name. GPT-4o today is not GPT-4o from 3 months ago. Same string in your config, different behavior, no notification.
Exactly. Then distribution shift, which is just real users don't send what you tested. Shorter prompts, different languages, weird formatting, random attachments. The long tail is exactly where evals matter most.
Plus 2 quieter ones. Prompt entropy, where someone edits the system prompt to fix one angry user and silently breaks 3 other cases nobody remembered. And retrieval drift. If you're doing RAG, your index changes constantly, so that slice degrades without a sound.
And here's the part I want to name. The cost of all this isn't abstract. It's your team's time. Every change becomes a half day of clicking through prompts. Every model update becomes a week of, let me check a few.
And every escalation is a one-off investigation, because nobody can say whether it's a new regression or it's been broken forever. Real evals make those questions cheap. The cost is upfront, the savings compound.
Right. So what's the actual stack? 5 layers, and they build on each other. Traces, error analysis, golden dataset, LLM-as-judge with human validation, and CI integration.
And here's the load-bearing idea. Skip a layer, and everything above it is scoring noise. Why is that so absolute?
Because the order is forced. You can't build a golden dataset until you know what failure modes exist, and you can't find failure modes without traces. You can't validate a judge without a labeled set, and you can't run CI until the judge is actually trustworthy. It's a ladder.
Let's climb it. Layer 1, traces. And a trace isn't just input and output, it's the full record of one interaction. The whole message history, the exact model name and version, every tool call with its arguments and responses.
And for RAG, the whole retrieval slice. What query went out, which documents came back, their scores, and which ones actually made it into the final prompt. Plus tokens, latency by stage, cost in dollars, a request ID, and any feedback signal like a thumbs up or a regenerate.
And the principle holding it together is that the trace is the source of truth. If you can't reconstruct exactly what the model saw and did from the trace alone, your eval is downstream of guessing.
Now there's a tension. Logging everything at full traffic is expensive. So how do you sample?
You log 100% of traces, but only keep full payloads for maybe 5 to 10%. The rest you strip to metadata. With one exception. You keep 100% of error traces. Tool failures, timeouts, negative feedback, those are the gold mine.
And don't forget, traces contain user data, so treat them like any other production log. Hash the user IDs, strip emails, rotate on a 30 to 90-day schedule. Same redaction discipline, no exceptions.
Okay, layer 2. And you told me this is the one everyone skips.
Error analysis, also called open coding. It's the step everyone skips, and it's the step that makes everything else work. And it's almost boringly low-tech.
So walk me through it. What do I literally do? Pull 50 to 100 real traces, open a spreadsheet, and just read them?
That's it. Mix random samples with ones flagged by bad feedback or errors. For each one you write, in plain language, what's wrong. And the key is you don't bring categories with you.
You let them emerge. After 20 or 30 traces, the same problems keep showing up. You start tagging. And by the end of 100, you've usually got 5 to 15 distinct failure modes, plus a bucket for looks fine.
And the magic is what it does to a vague complaint. The bot hallucinates sometimes turns into the bot hallucinates function names in 8% of code queries, especially when the variable names are uncommon.
And that second version is something you can actually write an eval for. The first one is just anxiety. One catch I want to flag though. Don't do this alone.
Get a second pair of eyes. Have someone else code the same 30 traces independently. Where you two disagree, the taxonomy is fuzzy and needs sharpening. It's the same agreement check you'll run on the judge later.
Layer 3, the golden dataset. This is your regression test suite for an LLM, basically. A fixed set of inputs, expected behaviors, and labels you grade every run against. And size matters, in both directions.
It does. 50 to 100 to start. Not 10, that's too noisy. Not 1,000, that's too slow and too expensive. The first version should be small enough that a human can read every single example in one afternoon.
And coverage maps straight back to layer 2. Every failure mode from your error analysis gets 5 to 10 examples, then 20 or 30 happy path cases, plus a few edge cases. Very long, very short, non-English, adversarial.
And here's a trap I see constantly. Teams generate the whole thing with another model. The synthetic-only trap.
It's seductive because it's fast. But what's wrong with it?
Synthetic data looks like prompts your team would write, not what users actually send. Real inputs over synthetic, always. You can supplement with synthetic, but the spine has to be real.
And how do you label, given that for open-ended generation, there's no single right string?
You write a rubric, not a literal answer. Properties like must cite at least one retrieved document, must not refuse a benign request, must answer in the user's language. Each one is a binary check, pass or fail.
And one more discipline, which mirrors the open coding rule. Don't let the person writing the prompt also label the golden set alone. It'll overfit to the prompt's strengths. Have someone outside the daily prompt work label at least half of it.
Exactly. Okay, layer 4. This is the one with the big number on it. LLM-as-judge.
Right, because manual scoring doesn't run on every PR. So you use a separate model call to score your output against the rubric. And the agreement numbers got genuinely good. Give me the numbers.
Judge human agreement crossed 85% across multiple benchmarks in 2025 and 2026. That's roughly the level 2 humans agree with each other on subjective tasks.
But there's a giant asterisk on that. That number only holds if you validate the judge. There's a great line in the article. A judge you didn't validate is just another vibes check in a trench coat.
Best line in the piece. So validating it, step by step. First, write a binary rubric for the judge. Yes/no questions, not a 1 to 10 scale. Judges are genuinely bad at 1 to 10 scales.
Second, pick the judge model from a different family than the one generating because of self-preference bias. Which, wait, means a model grades its own output too kindly?
Exactly that, so you don't let the model be its own judge. Then third, 2 humans label the golden set by hand, independently. Fourth, run the judge on the same set and compare. And fifth, you ship the judge only when agreement hits 85% or higher.
And below that line, you're automating noise. For high-stakes evals, there's also the majority vote trick, right?
Right, don't trust one judge call. Run 3 independent calls and take the majority vote. And disagreement among the three judges is itself a useful signal that the case is genuinely ambiguous.
And once it's validated, the payoff is huge. The judge scores thousands of outputs in minutes for a few dollars. You go from we eval before each release to we eval on every single PR.
Which is layer 5. Wiring it into CI so nobody has to remember to run it. On every PR that touches a prompt, a model config, or pipeline code, you run the golden eval and block the merge if a metric regresses past a threshold.
Like a few points of accuracy, or any regression at all, on a hard check like must not refuse benign requests. And there's a nightly run too, which does something the static set can't.
Nightly you run against fresh production traces. That's how you catch distribution shift, the golden set never sees. And you put a cost ceiling on it, something like $1 to $5 per run, so a judge price spike doesn't surprise you.
And I like the fast versus full split. A fast eval of 20 or 30 examples, under 2 minutes, on every commit. Then a full eval of a couple hundred on PR approval and on main. Same pipeline, different sample size.
And reporting matters as much as running. The PR comment should show overall pass rate, per failure mode pass rate, the diff against main, and links to the failed traces. Don't bury it in a log file.
And there's a bonus you mentioned. If the nightly rate drops 5 points and stays there for 2 days, something changed underneath you. So the eval is also your monitoring layer.
It is. 2 jobs for the price of 1. Now let's hit a few anti-patterns, because these keep showing up in real teams.
The first is the one we opened on. Vibes evals shipped to prod. Someone eyeballs 20 outputs, says ship it, and 3 weeks later, nobody can say if it's better than last week.
Number 2, the unvalidated single judge. One judge call, a 1-line, rate this 1 to 10 prompt, and people start making real decisions on the scores. The agreement might be 60%, and you'd never know.
And then the sneakiest one for me, the single number. Our eval score is 87%. On what? Across which failure modes? An aggregate hides exactly the failures that matter.
You need per failure mode rates, full stop. And the last one, eval as an afterthought. Treated as a quarterly chore instead of a continuous pipeline, it goes stale inside one release cycle, and then nobody trusts it.
Which is a death spiral, because if nobody trusts it, nobody runs it. Okay, here's the part I think people actually need. Say I have 0 evals today. You've claimed a team can ship the whole pipeline in 7 days. Convince me.
Day 1, capture traces. Pick one feature, add logging for input, output, tool calls, retrieval, model version, request ID. A JSON-L file is fine. Don't even pick a tool yet. The goal is 100+ traces by end of day.
Days 2 and 3 are open coding. Day 2. One person reads 50 traces, free text only, no categories. Day 3. A second person does the same 50. You compare, and you build the failure mode taxonomy. Aim for 5 to 12 named modes.
Day 4. The golden set, version 0. 50 to 80 examples covering every failure mode plus the happy path, each labeled with a rubric. And you put it in version control.
Day 5. Build the judge, a binary scoring prompt, a model from a different family, run it on the set. Which leaves day 6, the make or break day.
Validation. 2 humans label the same set. You compute human-human and judge human agreement. If the judge is below 80%, you iterate the prompt. And if you just can't get to 85, the rubric is the problem, not the judge. Sharpen the binary questions.
And day 7, you wire CI. A GitHub action on PRs that touch prompts or pipeline code, a comment with pass rates and links, a budget, a regression threshold. End of week, you've got the whole stack.
And it's deliberately small. That's the point. After week 1, your time goes to 3 things: growing the golden set, sharpening the rubric, and investigating regressions CI catches. None of it is another big build.
It compounds from there. I want to close on the framing because it reframes the whole job. What's the question that separates the teams who win the next couple of years?
On any given Tuesday, can you answer, is our AI feature better today than it was last month? On which dimensions and for which users? The teams that win can answer that cold.
And the punchline is that that's not a prompt question. It's an evals question.
Right. And there's a related line I keep coming back to. The methodology is the moat, not the tool. Inspect AI, Phoenix, PromptFoo, LangFuse, even a stack of Python scripts and a Google Sheet. They all do the same shape. What you do is what matters.
So if someone's listening and they've shipped a feature they can't measure, what's the one move this week?
Not another prompt tweak. It's a JSON-L file, 50 traces, and a spreadsheet of labels. The rest of the stack falls out of that. Start small, validate ruthlessly, ship the pipeline before the next feature.
Want to go deeper? Full articles on glass.co. Just search LLM Eval Stack.
See you in the next deep dive.